If written like a news report, what stories from the Bible were done by Florida man? Florida man beats 1,000 men to death with donkey bone, gets regrettable haircut. Florida man threatens to cut woman's baby in half over custody dispute. Florida man sell brother into human trafficking and pretend he was killed by alligators. Florida man found washed up on beach, claims to have been living inside whale. Florida man drives 2,000 pigs to mass suicide by drowning. Florida man ties 300 foxes together, straps lit torch to each. Florida man found guilty of murder pardoned by public vote. Florida man tears lion apart with his bare hands after practicing on goats. Doesn't tell parents. Judges 14:6. Florida man convinces neighbors to go into desert, gets lost for 40 years. Florida man gives 200 involuntary circumcisions, presents foreskins to father-in-law. Donkey is in a stable condition after being beaten by Florida man. Florida man reports the donkey was arguing with him. Florida man feeds children to bears. Florida man killed after refusing to impregnate brother's wife. Florida man found running illegal zoo on a cruise ship in the Middle East waters. Edit: my first award whatsoever for fooling around on the internet. Thank you, kind strangers. Florida man kills 6 feet 9 inches man using slingshot to the head. Florida man sues woman for making him try fruit. Florida man sent to die with lions. Ends up befriending them. Florida man single-handedly builds massive boat, leaves rest of humanity to die. Florida man wanders into local church, begins upending tables. Florida man sells best friend for a sack of quarters, commits suicide. Florida man arrested after dumping buckets of frogs and blood onto neighbor's property. Florida man arrested after wandering neighborhoods with slate declaring new government. Police determine slate stolen from local Home Depot. Florida man arrested for peeping on neighbor in her bathroom from his rooftop. Told police, when I saw her in the bath I knew I had to marry her. Florida man fleeing from tragedy gets drunk and is raped by both his daughters. Later they confess to have been seeking pregnancy. Florida man almost kills his son because a voice told him to. Destroys local fig tree in rage over lack of figs. Florida man gets crucified, walks it off. 42 children found dead. Florida man claims to have hired 2 bears to maul them after being teased for his male pattern baldness. 4 Kings 2:23-24 http www.drbo.org chapter 12002.htm. Florida man worked 7 years to get his sweetheart's father's blessing. What happened next will shock you. Florida man steals and eats a poisonous apple, says wife told him to. Florida man has intercourse with his own rib. Florida man kills his brother because he was envious of how good his sacrifice was. Florida man forced to lay with maid because wife is too old to bear children. Arsonist sets shrubbery on fire, claims it was telling me what to do. Florida man caught with 100 foreskins, claims that he was just saving up for a wife. Florida man tricks strangers into drinking his blood, says it's wine. Florida man dies, comes back 3 days later. Florida man sells his birthright for a bowl of lentil soup. Florida man travels to Egypt and threatens Egyptian government because a bush told him to. Florida man rubs mud made from spit in a blind man's eyes and claims he can now see. Hangry Florida man disappointed fig tree has no fruit, places curse on tree in fit of rage so no one can eat from it again. Mark 11:1214 Florida man tries to feed 5,000 people with a single fish and one loaf of bread, is successful. Florida man convinces clucky daughters there are no men left on earth, proceeds to get raped by both of them in a drunken stupor. Genesis 19:30-38. A Jacksonville woman claimed in court yesterday that a snake told her to steal fruit from the Eden Road Walmart in Jacksonville. An accomplice, her mentally impaired husband, was also arrested. After psychiatric reports, Judge Diaz sentenced the pair to community service across the state line in Georgia as part of a new interstate care and some other suckers community scheme. Florida woman lures house guest with milk, nails head to floor. Florida man destroys cow statue, denounces community project as heresy. Florida man ties foxes together in pairs of 2, before setting fire to their tails and releasing them into neighbors' wheat fields. Florida man spends all night in lion's den. Found next day rubbing their starving heads. Florida man kills 9 feet tall giant with slingshot, was ready for more. Florida man swallowed by whale, found unharmed 3 days later. Florida man caught in attempted murder of own son. Claims God demanded it. Florida man rampages in high temple, money changers and bazaar attendees flee in fear. Florida man allows gang to rape his daughters, says that it was either them or the angels. Controversy, Florida man lies with Florida man as most would lie with a Florida woman. Florida man kills lion at public event. Florida man assaults group of Philistines with jawbone of ass, bath salts thought to be involved. Florida man ignores call to go to Nineveh, gets swallowed by whale instead. Florida man awakens to find rib missing, strange woman lying naked beside him. Florida man murders entire island claiming to be forgiving. Florida man tries protecting entire city from being turned into salt, wife gets turned into salt instead. Numbers 22:27-31 Florida man seen having argument with donkey. Florida women drugged and raped father, convinced that they were the last 2 women on earth. Florida man caught sailing in the Gulf with 100 animals. Florida man under investigation for poisoning wedding party, by serving red paint thin to look like moonshine. Florida man gets hammed and has sex with his 2 daughters. Florida man gets so upset from the haircut his wife gave him and fractured the support beam of his garden shed, causing much havoc and injury. Florida man under investigation for the alleged murder of his brother in a jealous fit from romantic love square with parents. Florida man attacks armed soldiers with a new bone. Florida man raises arms at ocean. Florida man snitches on best friend for 30 silver pieces. Florida man builds personal cruise line for his family and all their pets. Wow, either I'm not understanding which stories from the Bible anybody is referencing here or I'm less familiar with the Bible than I thought. Probably the latter. Florida man lays hands on beggar, claims to expel demons, before a swine of pigs rushes into a lake and drowns. Florida man, thought dead, reappears from grave. Develops local cult following. Florida man suggests cutting baby in half during custody's dispute. Florida man kills father of 3 with a slingshot. Florida man arrested for arson after burning shrubbery, claims I was talking to God. Florida man turns out to be right about flood after building gigantic boat. Florida man sleeps with 7 of his father's side chicks on roof to establish dominance. Florida man kills Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, ironically with a rock shot from a slingshot. Nice try, youth pastor. Write your own terrible stand-up. Florida man caught hoarding thousands of pairs of animals and yelling about end of world. Florida man accuses local clergy of abuse, crucified in the history books. Florida man promoted from prisoner to cabinet member after interpreting President Trump's dreams. Florida man unleashes bears on local children for calling him bald. Florida man builds ark to save 2 of every animal. Florida man bites forbidden fruit, thus becoming the first person to not adhere to terms and conditions. Florida man devotes life to killing members of a local religious sect, claims he was visited, blinded, then healed by their leader. Joins their club instead and becomes greatest proponent of their faith in human history. Florida man executed, comes back alive 3 days later. Florida man tames 2 bears, commands them to attack a group of teens, 42 killed. Florida man loses entire inheritance in exchange for a bowl of soup. Florida man eats fruit, gets all of mankind condemned. Florida man stones 711 employee to death after finding store open on a Sunday. Florida man held captive naked male and female in his backyard, telling them he created them and forbids them eating fruits from trees.